we want to estimate, say, square root of 10 to a tenth. Okay, so let's take the square root of 10. You're not going to do all this as work when you're calculating these. This is just demonstrating the thought process. Um, what we want to do is we want to pinch our square root of 10 value between two perfect squares. So we look at the perfect squares and we say, okay, between what two numbers is the square root of is 10? 9 and 16. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to take the square root of 10, and I'm going to take some inequality symbols, like so, two less than symbols. And this is how we pinch or put something in between two numbers in math. So the square root of 10 is between the square root of 9 and the square root of 16. Okay? So I'm just going to write that. It's in between square root of 9, square root of 16. So the square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. So the square root of 10 is between 3 and 4. So the true value is somewhere between those two numbers. Okay? So, well, 3 is the square root of 9, like we said, right? I'm going to write the square root of 9 here. And 4 is the square root of 16. So it's just a matter of, is 10 closer to 9 or is it closer to 16? 9. So it's closer to the smaller number. So our answer has to be 3 and a little more. Well, that's the part we're going to figure out. So it has to be, let me get a different color. The square root of 10 is approximately, give it that wiggly equal, because it's not exact, 3 point something. This is, the point something has to be somewhere in here, because it's closer to the smaller number. 10 is closer to 9. So it has to be 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. And look how close it is. 9, and what's the number that comes right after 9? 10. So it wouldn't make sense to put 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. That would be for numbers more in between 9 and 16. It wouldn't make sense to put 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. That would be closer, numbers closer to 16 than 9. So we want to be in this vicinity. Somewhere in between. I go for like the middle number. You could go for 0.1. That's probably closer to 0.1 maybe. But let's do 0.2. And let's see how we did. 10 square root. Not bad. If I round it, it's 3.2. But we just want to be in that neighborhood. You see? So you have an idea of what the number actually is. Any questions? Okay, let's try a couple more. Let's do square root of 47. So again, we're going to take that square root of 47 and pinch it in between two values. 47. We're going to get it in between two square root values. So 47 is our target. Look at your squared numbers. 47 is between what two numbers?
49 and 64.
Uh,
36 and 50.
yeah, it's 36 and 49. 49 and 64 would both be too big. So that means our answer for the square root is between 6 and 7. So I'm going to put 6 and 7. Okay? And again, the square root of 6, 6 is the square root of 36. And 7 is the square root of 49. So our answer is 6 and a little more. It's a little more. So let's figure out that little more.
Wait, so that's 11 more, and then 49 is just 2 less.
Yeah. So that's where you start thinking that. So 36 to 47 is 11, right? 11 places. And here it's just 2 places. So would you agree it's closer to the larger number?
Yes.
So we want the square root of 10. I'm sorry, the square root of 47.
So why do we highlight the 6?
Well, it's always the lesser number plus a little more. It never reaches 7, right? It never reaches 7, but it gets infinitely close. So it's going to be 6 plus a little more. But that little more has to be over here, closer to the larger. So maybe 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. At that point, it's your guesstimate. What do you think? 6.7, 6.8, 6.9? It's awfully darn close.
I'd say 6.9.
6.9? The cool thing is you can't really go wrong at this point. Once you've done that much thinking about it, you're going to be close enough. Let's see how well we did. So let's see, 47 square root, if we round it, is 6.9. See how close we get just by thinking this way? Any question? Is it making sense?
Yes.
Okay, because that's going to be the assignment today. They're going to ask you to pinch it in between two perfect square roots like this, and then they're also going to ask you to estimate. Okay, I thought you had a question. All right, let's move on and do one more of these, and then we'll move on to cube roots.
What day is it today?
Today's the 17th. All righty, let's do the square root of 91. Okay, so we want to pinch the square root between two perfect squares. We look here, 90, 81, and 100. So the square roots we want are 9 and 10. So the square root of 91 is between 9 and 10. So that means our answer is 9 and a little more. It's going to be 9 point something. Okay, so we want 9 is the square root of 81. 10 is the square root of 100. And let's see. 91, closer to 81 or closer to 100?
Close to 100.
It's closer to 100 by 1. It's more or less in the middle. So this time it's in the middle of the numbers, more or less. Plus or minus 1 or 2 on either side puts it in the middle. Okay? So that tells us the square root of 91 is approximately 9.5, 9.6, somewhere in there. Let's go 5. We just want to be in that vicinity, in that neighborhood. Let's see. 91 square root, yeah, 9.5. Okay. You think you got this?
Yes. Yes.
Let's move on to cube roots. Cube roots is pretty much the same thing. Let's do the cube root of 900. 1, 2. This is 3. So we're going to do the cube root of 900. Okay? So now we're looking at the perfect cubes. We're looking at this one. So let's find 900 is between...
It's 30. Yeah, it's 30. And 900 is 30.
No, that's a square root. We're looking at perfect cubes.
Right.
For cube roots, we look here.
729 and 1,000.
729 and 1,000. Okay? That's what we want. So that would be between 9 and 10 again. So we want the cube root of 900 is between 9 and 10, and that would be the cube root of 729 and the cube root of 1,000. Okay? Oh, 1,000, not 100. So our answer is going to be 9 and a little more. So see if you can figure out what's it closer to, 729 or 1,000. So cube root 900 approximately. Yeah. So here from 729 to here is how much? 220.
240, no, 270 about.
It's 260. 260.
Okay. And from here to here, it's just 100, right?
Yeah.
So, what would you say? Closer to the larger number?
Yes.
So it's going to be 9.8.
8.
Let's go with 8. Oh, this won't do that. I forgot how to do those kind of roots here. Oh, there it is. Cube root. I think it's 3. No. I thought I did cube root. Well, let me do it over here on my. Nine point
6.
9.6. Yeah, 9.7 really if we round it. It's 9.7 if we round it. So we're still pretty close. It's a little harder with these. Okay, last one. Number 4. Cube root of negative 130. Remember, we can have negative cube roots. Okay, so let's go look at our perfect cubes, and we want 130.
It's between 125 and 216.
So our answer is between 5 and 6, but negative. Okay, so the cube root of negative 130 is between negative 5 and negative 6. Oh, other way around.
No,
Other way around.
It would be the opposite though.
Yeah. Remember, let's put negative, the bigger number, it would be here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's,
So it would be
what would we put here? Yeah. It's going to be slightly bigger though. So the cube root is what?
it's closer to, yeah, the smaller one, much closer.
So what would we put? Negative. It's closer to the smaller one.
Yeah.
So what would we put?
1.
Yeah, because it's 125. Okay. All right. So I think we've taken enough time. We got 2 IXLs. You want Delta Math? Sorry. Sometimes they don't have what we need on Delta.